All right. Good morning, everybody. Welcome to our Business Builder series. Today we have a special guest speaker who hopefully you guys have heard before, but if not, you're in for a treat. Tom Jacobs is here to join us. He's going to talk about 3 keys to doubling sales in the next 6 months. So this Business Builder series is part of an ongoing series that we have to for a benefit for our chamber members to help them build their skills, build their knowledge in terms of how to be better business people. And again, it's a great treat today to have Tom joining us all the way from Taiwan. So it is midnight or so in your part of the globe. So we appreciate you joining us. I don't know how many cups of coffee you've had to be with so much energy this evening, but we appreciate it. I know I'm on my second cup, so I don't know what you're doing, but maybe they have something special over there in Taiwan.
Yeah, glasses of wine, I think, or something.
No, there you go. I wouldn't blame you for that either. I'd
Red
get you
Bull.
relaxed. Red Bull, wine and Red Bull. That sounds like
Oh,
maybe your next entrepreneurial adventure.
yeah, right.
All right. My name is Thomas Lopez. My pronouns are he, him, his. I am the founder of a company called Economy Works, which is a freelance platform to connect companies with freelance talent, the stay-at-home parents and retirees, and getting them to do project work like marketing, HR, and IT. I'm also a board member and I wear that distinction with much pride. I think I'm still the newest board member, but I'm coming up on a year. So it's fun to be part of the chamber and fun to be part of events like this. So thank you for letting me lead this discussion, and thank you all for joining us. Like I said, if you haven't heard Tom speak before or met him at a previous event, then you're in for a big treat today, because it will be lively, engaging, and informative. I know Tom from times before, so like I said, I'm looking forward to this discussion. All right, we have well, let me just note a little housekeeping. You can share your pronouns as well at the end of your name, and there is I think so a few not buttons, but a couple of dots there in your box that you can update your pronouns to make sure that everyone is aware of how to address you. All right, as I noted, this is the Business Builder series. This is part of our learning series that we have for our members and non-members as well. They, of course, are always welcome to engage and join us in the learning. As we always do, we have no shortage of events to keep you all engaged and keep you maximizing the benefits of the membership that you have, whether that's networking, whether that's learning. We got it for you. We have through our partnership with the SBA, we've got webinars, or that we're invited to webinars that the SBA hosts on a variety of topics that are very relevant to what we do as business owners. Of course, we have our regular Brewing Up Business session on May 12th. We've got one sponsored by Patrick Torma, and he's going to talk to us a little bit about what he does. Again, he's another great speaker. Then on May 13th, it is I think a unique event that we are partnering with to celebrate the Asian community. So getting to know the Asian community, which is a virtual town hall with AJC Houston. So you won't want to miss that event. And then we also have a number of other events that we have recurring, whether that's a member orientation or the Chamber Networking Cafe and virtual office hours. We've got Pride Across Texas that's coming up that is taking place of our normal happy hour at the end of the month, so don't miss that. Of course, the big event that we have coming up on June the 24th is our Pride in Business event. As you know, this is our signature event every year. Normally, pre-COVID, we'd have this we had it in the evening, and it was the unique event for the LGBT business and allied community here in Houston. Of course, because of COVID, we have to do things differently. And last year we had big plans to do a luncheon, and everything just got scrapped because of COVID, and because we're still working through kind of the social distancing and trying to provide events that are going to maximize the value and the benefit for members. We're still going to do it virtually as we kind of work through and all get comfortable down the road with in-person events. We're still a ways from there, so we're going to celebrate virtually Pride this year. So don't forget to save the date date again for June 24th, 2021. It is during the lunch hour, unless you're Tom, which this will be well past your bedtime. But Houston time, it's 11:30 a.m. to 1 p.m. We've got an exciting event for you, so don't want to miss that. Special guest speakers, we've got awards. It's going to be a one-of-a-kind celebration for Pride this year. All right, so let's get started. Enough with me talking. You're all here to hear Tom Jackobs talk. So again, if you don't know Tom, he is the Impact Pilot. He's known for helping business owners sell their services through better public speaking, training, and unique sales process. Tom has been doing this. He looks only 29, but he's been doing it for over 30 years. As an entrepreneur, he's owned dozens of businesses and has really honed in his appreciation and his process. Understands that selling is a system, and you succeed when you are able to tell stories, and that's really how businesses thrive, and that's what he helps businesses do. Of course, like any entrepreneur, especially if you've been doing it as long as Tom has. You have your ups and downs, and when he's failed, he's persisted. He's kept going, and so Tom. One example is he's in Taiwan. He was en route back to Houston, and had a layover, and he's still there a year later because of COVID. So again, Tom, I proudly say is a friend and has been a great mentor as I started my business, and has just given me some great nuggets of information for me to carry forward. So. With that, I will hand it over to Tom so you can do your selling of what you do.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Thomas. Really appreciate that warm introduction. So hopefully everybody can see this screen here. I put into the chat box a download link. So I put together a workbook that will go along with this talk today, because I want you to have something physical that you can actually write on and do some of the work that we're going to be going through today. Because I believe wholeheartedly that the learning happens when we actually do. So I want to make this as interactive as possible, and actually have you do a couple exercises as well as we go through the 3 keys to doubling your sales in the next 6 months. And that might sound like a little hyperbole, but I totally believe that anybody is able to hone in on increasing their revenue by doing things that are very simple and strategic and working through a process. So in 2008, it was a really beautiful Sunday afternoon in Houston, and I was stuck in the back of my fitness center. I had just opened it up about 6 months prior, in 2008, and of course everybody knows what 2008 brought us, which was just a really fun, maybe not as fun as what's going on right now, but definitely a recession. And I had decided to open up my fitness business after spending 12 years in kind of the corporate world and having some side hustles as well. I decided to go all in, burn the boats, and open this fitness center. I dumped out my entire 401k. I invested in buying an existing center and then quickly doubled it in size as well. And on this particular Sunday afternoon, I was in my office, what I called my office. It was really the electrical closet, and there were transformers buzzing behind me and really, really hot. And I turned off the air conditioner to save some money as well, because I was staring at my computer screen, and what was on the screen was my bank account. And within 6 months, I had blown through all of my money, and I was broke, and I didn't know what to do. I'd like I said, dumped out my 401k. I'd maxed out my credit cards. I had asked some clients to prepay just to get me by. And what was going on in my head was like, I'd managed millions of dollars of freight for oil companies, and yet I couldn't operate a small business. And the money was going out, but no money was coming in. And I did kind of what any entrepreneur would do, when they're flat broke and they don't know what to do. So I went to Google. Well, I didn't go to Google. I went on Google and I Googled how to save my fitness business. And what popped up were, different websites and coaches and things like this. And I saw one that just kind of caught my eye. I was like, the reason that you're failing is because of your sales. I was like, what? How is that possible? And I always had this image of sales as being something that's kind of dirty, and you have this plaid suit and you try to trick people into doing something that they don't want to do. And I think that comes from just kind of in my growing up days. It was always adversarial in my house when it came to salespeople, and my parents were always very much like, oh, that's a salesperson, got to be careful, they're going to trick you into doing something. And I didn't realize that it's a skill that's needed for business, and it was completely in my mindset that I was kind of screwed up. So I decided to invest in myself, and I bought a sales training program specific for fitness trainers, and it was $2,000. It was $2,000 that I didn't have. And I scraped it together and put it on a credit card. And this was, in 2008, kind of started the internet, and doing web conferences was kind of new. And this particular company coaching program, they did live calls, actually on the phone and sometimes web, but they sent a book, a binder, and you had all your stuff, and then you would get on a call once a week and go through the training. And we were about 2 weeks into it, and I was like, guys, it was a 6-week program, by the way. I was like, guys, can we kind of speed this up a little bit? Because I have a credit card bill due in a couple of weeks, and I need to make $2,000 very quickly so I can pay for this program. And so I was talking to one of the coaches, who, by the way, is still a business coach and a mentor for me today, 12 years, more than 12 years, quite a, whatever, do the math on that. And she's like, yeah, I just kind of skip ahead and kind of go through the program. And I was going through kind of the way to sell was consultative, was asking questions, not telling people what they wanted. I was like, this is really weird, because you got to understand my sales process up into that point was in this building. I don't know if anybody been to my fitness center when I had it on TC Jester. It was Body 3 Fitness Center. It's still, actually, we moved it, but I sold it 4 years ago, and the new owners are still active with it. But it was in a strip center next to a Subway. So we got a lot of foot traffic by, and people would pop in every once in a while. And, I'd be training somebody because it was just me and trying to kind of build it out and build a business and all that. And, I'd be working out with somebody, and somebody, a new person would walk in the door and just kind of stand there, and I'd be like, oh, tell my client, oh, I'll be right back. I go up to him and go, yeah, what do you want? Oh, you want personal training? Well, great. It's $60 a session. If you buy 10 sessions, then I'll give you the 11th for free. You want it? You want to think about it? Okay, here's my card. When you think about it, give me a call. Literally, that was my sales process. And you're probably going, well, no wonder you went broke in 6 months, because you couldn't sell. I mean, I couldn't sell water to a guy in the desert. I was so bad at it. So I went through the program, and within 2 weeks, I was like, this is really kind of cool, because it was a process. And anybody that knows me kind of realizes that I'm an introvert by nature. And when I do presentations, things like that, it's obviously takes a lot of energy for me to do it, but I'm an introvert. And so being that gregarious kind of salesperson just wasn't in me. But when I was taught that sales is a process, you go from step 1 to step 2, step 3. I'm just a very logical person. I can follow directions. And I was like, oh, this totally makes sense. And the questions were laid out for me, and I was like, oh, wow, this is really cool. And within 2 weeks, I'd kind of gone through the entire thing, put together my presentation, and literally they had you sit down with a prospect for 45 minutes and go through a whole presentation and learn about what their desires are, what their wants are, and all that, learn about the person, and then prescribe a solution to them. I was like, wow, this is totally different than trying to sell 10 sessions at a time. And they were wanting us to sell 100 sessions at a time. I was like, 100 sessions? I've never sold more than 10 at a time. And you see, the problem with selling kind of like little packages like that too, were that I was always having to resell. Every 10 sessions, I had to resell people. And it was awful. And obviously I wasn't succeeding at it. And so I went through this program and I sat down with the first person that I sat down with, Sharon. And I remember her to this day. And actually she was pretty amazing person. And I sat her down and I was expanding the facility, and kind of that's where all the money went was to the construction crew. But we were expanding it, and it was kind of in this construction area, and the company that was teaching me the sales technique, they're like, you got to have a nice little consultation room, have a computer screen with your presentation, and do all this. And I was like, well, this is the best I can do. And it was like in this construction zone. So we sat Sharon down, and I started asking her questions about what she's wanting to do, what she's tried in the past, and just going through the discovery phase of it. I lay out what the problem is from what my understanding is, and I present what the solution would be. Just everything that they taught me to do, just like step by step by step by step. And at the end of it, again, they had the scripting for me as well, and it said, and I remember asking her, I was like, well, in my expert opinion, and working with tons of people just like you get the results that you want, you really need the 100 session package. And the investment for that is $5,500. And they taught me too that it's just like, once you kind of lay out the price, just kind of shut up and let them make a decision. And so she was just sitting there, and I was like, oh, in my head, I was like, what's she talking about? Like, what was she thinking? Maybe I shouldn't have offered the 100. Maybe I should offer, maybe I should go back to the 10. I should do 10 sessions and maybe give it all to her for free and just she can do trial. All this crazy head trash was going on in my head. And then she was like, yeah, okay. Yeah, let's do that. And I'll put it on my MasterCard. I was like, I think what happened, I'm not quite clear because it was kind of a little hazy at the moment, that I think I actually verbalized, are you sure? When she said, let's go ahead and do it. I was like, are you sure? And I took her credit card and I was like, okay, now what do I do? Like, how do I process a credit card? Because I never, processed something for $5,500 before. And so, I swiped it and went through and fine. I was like, holy crap. I just sold 100 sessions to somebody, and it was super easy. And at that moment, this whole, my mindset completely shifted. I was like, not only is this going to help my business, but I'm going to help Sharon, and I'm going to help a ton of other people like Sharon just get fit, get healthy, solve the problem that they were looking to solve. And maybe you have a program as well where you're helping people solve a problem, because that's really what sales is that you're solving a problem that somebody has. And now I was like, I'm helping her, because I wasn't helping anybody selling them just 10 sessions at a time. That was probably hurting them more than anything else, because there was no longevity. Because anybody that's gone through a fitness program before knows that it takes more than just 10 sessions to do anything. It takes 3 months at a minimum to get any results. And so when I started selling these larger programs, I was like, now I can relax. Now I can really focus on delivery of the service. And the service got really good. I became a selling machine. And I quickly had to hire some other trainers to help me out with it. But like 10 people would come in, looking to sit down and do a consultation, 9 people would leave with a program in hand. And usually it was like the 75 or the 100 session package. I wasn't selling, 50 session packages anymore. It was like, this was completely amazing. In my second year of business, we quadrupled the revenue, went from just, like 100,000 that first year, just barely breaking even. And the second year we grossed $400,000. And I tell you this story because I think it's important to understand that when we're thinking about sales, a lot of us have this mindset that it's doing something to somebody. And really what it is you're helping somebody solve a problem. And so in today's session, what we're going to go through is solving 3 problems that I see a lot when I'm coaching people on sales and coming up with sales. And it's going to be fun and somewhat interactive. So if you have questions along the way, you can pop those into the question box. We'll get to all the questions at the end as well. And if we can bring you on to ask the question live, that'd be awesome too. But just go ahead and, let's make this as interactive as possible. Hopefully you're still all there. If you can just put a 1 in the chat box so I know that people are listening and you can hear me. If you've downloaded that workbook, awesome, thank you guys. Then please download that workbook and roll up your sleeves. We're gonna do a little bit of work right now. So doubling your sales in the next 6 months. Sounds like fun. So let me go back to the slideshow here. So let's talk about, oops. Let's try that again. Share screen. All right, now we got it. Oh, okay. So the number, let's make sure I got this right. All right. The first thing that we have to do is understand what we're selling and what we're really selling. So I forget who the sales trainer was that I heard this from. I think it may have somebody, a bald guy, kind of like me. But he said, if you're going to the hardware store and you're wanting to buy a drill, what kind of drill would you want? Now a really good salesperson at the hardware store, and that's probably not going to happen at Home Depot or Lowe's, but maybe if you go to Ace or something like that. A really great salesperson, the first question that they would ask is, what are you planning to use it for? So in that situation, it's no longer about the drill. It's about the result. What are you wanting? I want to drill a hole. Okay, well, what are you going to use that hole? So now it becomes about, okay, well, you need to drill a hole. It's not about the drill, but let's figure out a solution to help you drill that hole. And ultimately, maybe you're not even selling the person drilling the hole. You're really selling the feeling of accomplishment of actually doing a home improvement project or some type of project that you're on. But if you don't ask those very simple questions, then you're never going to get to what the real issue is and what the person really wants out of your product or service. Now, I was working with a consumer electronics company, and they actually do the USB memory sticks, so the flash drives, customized and all this stuff. And I was working with their salespeople, and the salespeople were basically order takers. So they were just taking orders from customers. They weren't really selling. And I was listening to a lot of the calls that they were making, and many of them were not even asking what they were using the drives for. And as I was learning more about flash drives, the type of drive actually does matter in terms of what you're going to put on it. Because if you're going to put video on it, then you're going to need a faster chip. That's not going to buffer the video. If you're doing music and things like that, there's different types of memory that you need. I was like, oh, wow, I never knew that. And I was like, guys, you've been in this for 15, 20 years. You already know this. It's innate to what you do. But the people that's ordering, they could just order on Amazon and get a drive and not have the type of service and support that you actually provide. And you won't know how to best serve them if you're not asking the question. When they started asking the questions of, well, what do you plan to use this for? Now their average transaction size increased about 20%. Because now they were getting people, and their client satisfaction was going up as well, because they were getting their customers the right tool for the job that they wanted. They were understanding the drill versus the hole that the drill is going to create. And they were fitting what the client wanted to what, and the result. And what's really interesting is in the fitness industry, I would argue that is the hardest thing to sell is fitness. Because when you're selling workouts, you're selling something to somebody something that they don't want to do, right? Because if they were worked out, they would have been fit. They wouldn't need a personal trainer. So if you're trying to sell workouts, you're literally selling something to somebody that they don't want. How on earth do you do that? And this was one thing when I coached fitness trainers is you've got to get away from the workout and sell the result of the workout, feeling great, being able to play with kids, having more energy, having life, all of this stuff, and not selling, oh, well, we do 10 sessions. It's going to be 2 sessions a week. You're going to work out with dumbbells and barbells, and maybe a kettlebell now and then. I mean, nobody cares about what you do in terms of the workout. They care about the result that they're going to get. So I want to take about 3 minutes, maybe 2 minutes, and I want you guys to either on a piece of paper or if you download the worksheet, whatever, write out what it is that you sell, like the physical product, whether it's insurance or it's advertising or it's content. I'm just kind of seeing who's here online, some supplies, waterproofing, things like that. So you put what it is that you're selling, but then take it one step further and put what is it that you're really selling? What's the result that you're getting? What's the problem that you're solving? All right. So take a couple minutes to write that down. If you want to post that into the chat box, that would be awesome. I'd love to see your feedback on that as well. So we'll just take a couple minutes here. I'll grab some water. Great. If you solve a number of problems, then list out the results that those problems are going to, the result of solving those problems. Ultimately, there's probably going to be 1, maybe 2 things that you're the problem, even though you're solving a number of problems, there's probably a result that is going to come about. And it might be somebody's feeling. It could be like insurance, peace of mind insurance. That's exactly what I was going to say. You're not selling car coverage. You're selling certainty that if you're in an accident, you're going to be taken care of. Life insurance. You're selling a legacy, right, for the family when you die. Or you can find something that's super simple in your product offering as well, that you just focus on the one thing, freelance work. Knocking out the to-do list. Yes, it's awesome. Thank you, Thomas. Thanks, Elaine. Peace of mind. Absolutely. I'll just do one more minute here. Thanks for that, Jack. I would also argue that you are selling more business. The problem is, the reason that they're advertising is that they want more business or more name recognition. And what you're selling them is more business, more revenue, more customers. So I think that's really the problem that you're solving for them. And Paul, probably safety. It sounds, just reading through that, safety. Specialty fasteners, hard to find. All right. Ease of work. If you're helping them find something that is really hard to find, then you're making things a lot easier for them as well, John. Supplement. Thank you, Linda. Raise awareness of Black artists or supplement curriculum. All right, awesome. Excellent. Good stuff, guys. All right. Now, step number 2, key number 2. So now you know what you're really selling and what the result is that your customers are coming up with. Now, follow up, follow through, and this is always just a really fun one to go through, because people always ask me, how many times do you need to follow up with somebody to get them to do something? And I don't know if you knew this, but I run a call center specifically for fitness centers and functional medicine doctors. But we call leads that they get them to book an appointment with the doctor or to attend a webinar. It takes 10 to 11 touches to get somebody to take action. 10 to 11. Now, 5 years ago, that used to be 7 to 8 touches to get somebody to take action. I mean, it's amazing how distracted people are these days. I don't want to use the word busy, because I don't think that's really true. I think just people are being distracted with all sorts of different things to go. So there was a study that one franchisor did of a franchise. I think it was 9 round, but don't quote me on that. But they did a study of their franchisees and found that 72% didn't even follow up with one phone call when a lead was presented to them. Now, these leads were coming online, filling out a form, and submitting the form. And then not a single outbound phone call for 72%. This just blows my mind. Partly because I was part of that statistic when I first started my fitness business. I was like, well, if they want it, they'll just come and get it, which is fine for, like 2% of the population. But if, people are on the fence, sometimes they get distracted and, they forget about you for a little bit, they forget filling out that form that they filled out online. And if you're not on it and getting to those leads and persistently and consistently following up with them, then you're leaving tons of money on the table, probably 25 to 30%. I mean, we have people on our call list that we call at day 25. This is 10 calls in that say, oh my gosh, I've just been so busy lately doing nothing, quarantined at home, that I just completely forgot about booking this appointment. It's but they're thankful that we followed up with them and that we're persistent and consistent. So most businesses will probably call back once, or worse, they rely on automation or some email automation. You fill out a form and then, that email is just going to go out. Well, guess what? Automation breaks now and then. maybe they typed in the wrong email address. Maybe it goes to junk mail. There's so many different things that can happen. But yet, if we just pick up the phone, then, unless they gave us the wrong phone number, which happens from time to time, but you're going to get a response from them. And more than that, why not text as well? I don't know about you, but I'm more of a texting person. So especially here in Taiwan, I have a US phone number and people call, but sometimes the voicemail doesn't come through and things like that. But texts always come through, right? And I will respond to a text over a voicemail. So, and different people are different ways, right? Everybody's unique in their approach to communication styles. So if you're only relying on email, then you're missing a huge opportunity. If you only rely on phone, again, you're missing a certain population. And if you're only relying on text, you just don't know how people respond. So you have to use all media possible to get a hold of them. And this is after a proactive response. Right? Somebody has said, yes, I'm interested and want to talk to you. So actually, I put together a PDF on this, and it is how to have a full book of appointments on Monday morning. I'm going to put that in the chat box there. But this is what I recommend. We're going to do this little follow-through exercise here. Because a lot of businesses rely too heavily on emails and automation to get their message out to their prospects. So again, it could go to junk mail. You could type, have typos and things like that. What if? But people won't ignore the phone, and if they do ignore the phone, they oftentimes will answer a text. So all media possible. You got the email going out, you got a phone call going out, and you got a text message going out. Now, the first call that goes out has to be within 20 minutes of the lead coming in. During normal call times, which we do 9 a.m. to 8 p.m. is kind of normal call times for people without them getting too upset. But if a lead comes in during that time, you got 20 minutes, and that lead goes cold really fast, like ice cold after a while. So you want to make sure that you are getting them immediately. So this is in the workbook, and we'll go through this kind of quickly. But this is kind of how you should design your follow-up process. And so this is what we do. Like on day one, we'll do a phone and a text. So you'll put day one in the first two columns or first two rows. And the first touch is a phone call. The second touch is a text message. So it's touch one, touch two. So you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. I think I cut this off for space, but there's, I would do at least 10 touches. And Jack, you said seventh. No, a no is not really a no until the seventh no, which is true. But you put your method, phone, text, and then what the message is. And this way you have a script that you can follow. And in that PDF download at businessleadmaximizer.com/Monday, it has some scripting in there for voicemails and text messages. And one thing that I see for a lot of businesses, when that first text goes out, they write a book. And nobody's got time to read a book and a text message. It needs to be short, brief. Remember, it's coming from a number that they don't know. And so, I always do, hey, you requested an appointment. When's a good time to chat? And they're like, what did I do? I did what? Who is this? And that starts the conversation, because you leave it a little bit open that they want to kind of figure out, because our brains, we don't like open loops in our brains. We got to answer the question. So you ask a very simple question, when can we chat? Oh, who is this? And then that conversation. Oh, hey, it's Tom over at Business Lead Maximizer. You had requested a consultation. I just want to follow up with you and set a time that we can chat. Oh, okay, great. Wednesday at 5. and you got an appointment. You booked an appointment on the first touch. Well, if that doesn't happen, you do the phone. And so day 1, day 2, day 3 is very, very important. So we always do phone, text, phone, text, phone, text on each of those days. And one little pro tip here is schedule 30 minutes to an hour each day. That is your power hour that you're going to make outbound phone calls. And if you don't have time to do it, then have your staff do it. If you don't have time or staff, then maybe it's time to outsource it as well. So you want to make sure that you're following up on those leads and you're consistent and persistent with it. And when that power hour goes, that's when you're making those follow-up phone calls. And stagger the times of day so that you hit people at different times, because you never know, like if they're at work, they can't answer the phone, whatever. But typically we don't do Monday morning calls and we don't do Friday afternoon calls because just people don't answer the phone then. So I would do Monday afternoon, maybe a Tuesday morning, do Wednesday evening if you can do an evening time up to 7 o'clock. And then do Thursday, midday, maybe afternoon or something like that. And then again, Friday morning, not Friday afternoon. And if you have people available to do 7 days a week, like Saturday and Sunday, like you can catch people on those days when they're not at work. So like at our call center, we're calling 7 days a week, 12 hours a day, and getting through to people on a pretty consistent basis. Now, the last email, or you want to sprinkle a couple emails in here, but the last phone message and the email that go out should be a breakup email. And this is kind of a fun one to do because we always get responses. Like 80% of the time, people will respond to these messages. We're like, oh, we've been trying to get a hold of you and we haven't been able to. So I'm just going to go ahead and close out your file, or I'm gonna stop something, or close out your file. They're like, oh, I had a file open on me, and they're like, oh, you're gonna close it out? Oh, no, don't close it. I just got busy and forgot that I wanted to book this appointment. And a lot of times we'll book appointments on that day 30 breakup email. So it's really effective. So I recommend the last message that goes out is kind of a breakup. We're going to go ahead and close out your file. If things change, contact us, something like that. So really, really simple. So this is in the workbook. Hopefully you downloaded that, but go ahead and design out how your days go. And so, like I said, I do day 1, 2, and 3, then give them a rest, go to day 5, day 7, do 9 and 10, and then 13. I don't know why we do day 13, lucky number. And then we do 15, 20, 25, 30. So we give 5 days in between. And just at that day 30, then it's over, that's an expired lead. Then we put them into the normal nurture sequence where they get an email once every other week or something like that. All right. Now, the third tip is once you get them in front of you, now you have to ask the right questions. And this was really what blew me away, because like most amateur salespeople and most new people that start off with selling, it's nobody's fault because there's not a lot of education out there for selling. They focus on the benefits, or they focus on the actual product that they're selling, which has nothing to do with the result that person wants or what's going on in their life. And I just got an email today too with somebody that was launching a new program, and they listed out, you're going to have a mastermind, you're going to have this, you're going to have this, you're going to have this. I was like, but what is it? Like, they didn't even say like what it was. They were talking about all the delivery methods of what they're going to deliver, but they didn't even talk about how it's going to benefit me. Like, I may have purchased it, but I don't know how that's going to benefit me. I was actually going to email the person back and say, what is this? Just get them to think about that. It's about the person that you want to purchase your program or your service, product or service. So asking the right questions that get them to verbalize why they want you, right? It's all about asking the right questions in the right order. so that they realize that they need you and they need it now, not tomorrow, not next week. And they don't need to think about it. They just need to go ahead and purchase. Now, I had, when I do training, I keep telling people that I'm coaching, I was like, God gave us 2 ears and 1 mouth, use them proportionately. Right? Listen twice as much as you're talking. And actually, the salesperson should only be talking about 20% of the time. The more the salesperson talks, the less they sell. And I certainly have done this myself, that when I go into like coaching mode, when I get on strategy calls, that I inevitably don't make the sale. But when I stick to the questions and listening to what the prospect is saying and getting them to verbalize and say out loud what the problem is and why they need to solve it now, oftentimes I don't even need to ask for the sale. Many times the client, the prospect is saying, oh yeah, like, how do I get involved? How do I fix this? Because they're seeing, oh my gosh, my problem is so big, I need to fix it. I need to fix it now. So, and that's really the key, is designing those questions so it verbalizes problems. So for example, my favorite is, and goes for any product or service, is like, what inspired you to call me today? And this is, assuming that it's an inbound call, but what inspired you? And what this does also, and when you say what inspired you to call me today, that takes away the time objection. A lot of people that, the first objection that they get is like, oh, I got to think about it. Right? And why is, the second question I like to say is, why is now the right time for you to solve XYZ problem? Again, time objection. You want to think about why people don't buy from you and what their objections are, and think about questions that you can get them to verbalize why they need to not have that objection. Right? What have you tried in the past to solve your problem? So you get them to think about, this pattern of trying to solve it but never solving it. And now you can go into your presentation and show them exactly how you can solve the problem that they've laid out. And I always follow up that question with, why don't you think it worked? So why don't you think it worked? And the last question here, that's a really good generic question to use, is, how badly do you want to solve your problem? And I'll say this, like, on a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being the highest, how committed are you to solving your problem? Or how badly do you want to solve the problem? And if they say, it's like a 2, then I pretty much end the conversation. But if it's a 8, 9, or 10, they're pretty well ready to go with the sale, and you can use that as kind of a trial close as well. All right, so those are the 3 keys. So let's just refresh that. That's number 1 is making sure you understand exactly what you're selling, what you're really selling, what's the problem that you're solving. Number 2 is you got to follow up and follow through. The fortune is in the follow-up. And the third piece is identify questions where the prospect gets to verbalize why they need your service or your product and why they need it now. Because you could tell them all day long why they need you, but they're not going to believe you because you're the salesperson. But if they verbalize it out loud, why they need you and why they need your product and why they need it now, then they're telling themselves out loud. And we don't lie to ourselves generally. I lied to myself this morning and said I look good today. But anyway, we don't lie to ourselves. And when we verbalize something, then we are actually telling ourselves the truth. And when we say it out of our mouths, we're going to believe it versus hearing it from somebody else, especially, a salesperson. So that is what I have for you today. I hope you enjoyed it. If there are questions, Nimen Yo Wentima, that's my Chinese for today. I'm learning Chinese. How's that, Thomas? for some Chinese. And how?
That's
and
good.
How?
Yeah.
Okay.
You would convince me either way. I mean, I'm like, oh wow, that's impressive. So I was like, hopefully you're not sending bad messages to us, right?
Oh no, I just ordered Kung Pao chicken, but it's exactly the point. It should be at your door pretty quick. So yeah. if there's questions, pop those into thanks, Tammy, the question box there. If you're interested in, I know this was kind of fast and furious, like my brother Vin Diesel, but if you'd like to have an impact call with me and just kind of go through some of this in more detail, 30 minutes, we can kind of nail it out. If you'd like to learn a little bit more about what I do in terms of sales coaching and call center, then please book a call at tomjacobs.com/impact, and that will get convenient morning time appointments for y'all. I usually call it a day around midnight, 1 o'clock.
That's a full day. Does that mean you're waking up like?
I wake up at 10, so don't feel too bad for me. Come on.
I don't feel bad. Like, here I was. I'm like, oh, it's gonna toot your horn. You're like, hard worker. You wake up at 10. No, I'm kidding. That's awesome. I mean, that working that following the sun, I guess, as some say, is definitely a challenge. So kudos to you for making it work. Because I'm sure that puts a damper on your social life. I know while you're an introvert, I know you like to get out and embrace the culture and the environment. So
yeah, for sure.
There was just one comment from Jack. He said he hated the power hour at the last place sold ads for same time every morning, 30 calls in 60 minutes, and barely leaves you time to leave a message. So he likes your strategy much better. So
awesome. Yeah, good, Jack. Good to see you here, man. Thanks for joining.
Yeah. I mean, I guess I have a couple questions, and maybe we'll leave it up to the folks if they've got any as well to put in the chat. And again, great presentation. I have a lot of notes that I took, so I appreciate the free lesson. But what are some like common mistakes that you see, like some of the folks that you're working with? Obviously, you hit on the three keys, which maybe gets at that. But what are some things that you say, as either entrepreneurs or folks that have been, trying to, up their client list and get more sales, grow their revenue, particularly now as we're kind of coming out of COVID and really trying to re-engage in normal again. What are some common mistakes we should be looking out for or avoiding?
Yeah, salespeople that talk too much. So that's like the number one pet peeve that I have is they're talking more than they're listening. And sales is really, really simple. You're finding what the problem is and you're solving the problem. That's it. It's no more complicated than that. But if you're always talking about your product and how great it is and blah, 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 you're not listening for what the problem is that they have. And maybe your program or your product doesn't solve their problem, which if you ask that question up front, it'll save you a bunch of time. And then you're like, oh yeah, I can't help you. But here's some people that might be able to, and you refer them off. So yeah, listen.
Well, that's a great lead into my next question, because I admittedly struggle with the listening piece. I love talking with folks, and especially as what I do, I like we're problem solvers, right? So I like to work with business owners. I'm like, oh, and here's what you could do, and what you could do, and what you could do, and I struggle to just So yeah. How can we be better listeners and as part of the sales process?
So you're scripting out your questions for sure. So I mean, I've been doing this since 2008, 15, again, my math is really bad, but
we're going to give it, it's late over there. So you're good.
A few years. And just, what was the question again?
Yeah, just oddly, how can we be better listening?
Scripting. Okay. Scripting. So whenever I go on to sales calls, even to this day, I always have a script with my questions laid out, because I want to make sure that I'm not missing something. And I don't do it word for word. I'll move some around based on the conversation and listening to the person, but I want to make sure I have a reference point for the questions that I want to ask. Otherwise, I'm not getting to what the problem is.
Right. Yeah, I think think about it. I mean, I had a sales call earlier before this one, and yes, that script helps. It helps me, like, so I don't go off on a tangent trying to solve other things that aren't pertinent to what I can actually solve with Economy Works. Right.
Yeah.
So a script, I think that sounds good. And I guess you sent us a link. Well, the link you sent us to in terms of the lead maximizer, that's not so much a script for the sales call as it is for the follow-ups, right? Until you get
Right.
to the 10 attempts or 10 to 12 attempts before you get that yes, right?
Yep. Yep. Yep.
And I guess you talked about understanding what you're selling. Like that's kind of a key, one of the first key to success here. How do you do that very well, right? Because we all sell different things, right? And you asked us in the chat at the
Yep.
beginning, tell us what you sell. And for some of us it's easy. It's like, we can tell the product or service, but to getting to that, we're solving a problem, we're selling a solution. How do you help business owners kind of think through that process?
Yeah. So first, understanding what the problem is that most of the clients come to the business for in the first place. So if we use like insurance as the example, somebody's coming in because one, it's mandatory for car insurance. You have to have car insurance. Okay, I'm going to go shop around for car insurance, but then but why would they have car insurance on? Maybe it's a new car. Yeah, it's mandatory, but I just bought this $40,000 car, and I want peace of mind that if I'm in an accident, that I'm not going to be out $40,000. The car. So really, you're not selling insurance per se. You're solving the problem of peace of mind that while I'm on the road, if I'm ever hit, I'm going to be kept whole. Or like the
Right.
workout example, it's I'm not selling workouts. That's what we do. We work out, but that's not what I'm selling. I'm selling feeling better, being more energetic, losing the weight, whatever it happens to be, whatever the problem is that person comes in for.
Right. And I guess it ties into just one other question I have, and folks that are still on the call, feel free to put any questions you have in the chat. Otherwise, I'm just getting a free session out of Tom, courtesy of the chamber. So thank you for that.
Welcome.
But you mentioned kind of that, sales, right. To you, early days kind of felt dirty, right? It felt like I like instantly I had the image of the plaid suit. So I'm glad I didn't wear my plaid coat today, but although I am wearing a plaid shirt, so
Sure,
no,
right.
I'm not taking offense. But how do you get past that dirty feeling, that swarmy salesman that so many of us have, in that image burned in our brains?
Yeah, it's complete mindset from the salesperson themselves. You have to really love the product or the service that you're selling, because if you don't, you shouldn't be selling it. I mean, to me, that's unethical if you're selling something that you don't believe in. So one, you have to believe in what you're selling, number one, and have some integrity around that, and know that you're solving a problem. And what was really interesting when I had that first consultation with Sharon is when we sat down and I went through what her problems were, and I was just like, oh my gosh, I could really help her. And she really does need 100 sessions to get to the goals that she wanted. And then boom, she's asking me, can I pay with a MasterCard? Or, and I'm like, are you sure? But you're doing your job really well when some of your prospects are actually asking you, how can I get started? How can I, what's the next step?
And we did get a question in the chat. What do you think is the biggest mindset block for most people who try to sell?
I think other than the mindset of, oh, I have to do something to somebody. I'm doing, like, sales is not a verb. Again, my grammar is bad as well. I don't understand how I'm learning Chinese, but but if you're not doing something to somebody with sales, you're solving a problem. So that's the first mindset block that most people have to really get over in selling. And the second, I would say, is the thought that you're interrupting somebody. Unless you're doing cold calls, and there's a time and a place for doing cold calls, not my favorite thing to do, but I've done it. But if you're responding to people that asked for information, you're not bothering them. Like, it's your duty and obligation to contact them to help them solve the problem that they're reaching out for you. That's why you're in business, is to solve people's problem. And if you're fearful that you're going to be interrupting them, then I can't make that phone call right now. Like, what if? Well, if they're busy, they're not going to answer the phone. And if they don't want you to call, they'll tell you. Like, I've trained my agents, and like, I'm putting together this reel of recorded calls with some really lively language on it. But the moment that somebody says, "Hey, I'm not interested," boom, off the list, done. No biggie. Like, we won't call you. So.
Right. Yeah. Another question came through. How do you translate all this to e-commerce?
Yeah. So a lot of like the questions, the follow-up, that's all in e-commerce as well. Obviously, the phone follow-up. Maybe you're not collecting phone numbers, and you're just allowing them to buy through a funnel or something like that online. But a lot of the questions, you may design a form that somebody fills out to get them thinking about why they're solving the problem that you're offering the solution for, and why they need to do it now. What I found, and I've sold e-commerce programs before over the phone, like $2,000 to $5,000 programs. And what people, usually, if it's something around 500 or more, that personal phone call and the consultation is really necessary to really boost sales. If it's under $500, generally a good sales page and good copy and questions to get people thinking why they need it will do the job for under $500. Yeah. Hope that helps, John.
I did get another question. In your opinion, how long should a salesperson be allowed to hold a lead? We fluctuate like crazy. All emails without a phone call or sales presentation should not hold the lead.
That's right. Yeah. So there needs to be activity on that lead. So if you're just sending out emails to a lead, like that's not active to me. If there's a sales organization, there's 4 or 5 salespeople. If there's just a lazy salesperson that's just relying on email, then I would open that lead up for anybody. You pick up the phone call, and go for it. Yeah, there needs to be like firm phone, text, meetings, something like that to show that there's active, like trying to solicit somebody. Yeah.
They're responding or something. Yeah. Okay. Very good. All right. Well, we appreciate you staying up late with us. For folks joining us in the morning, I appreciate it. We appreciate everyone joining us in this discussion. Valuable information that was shared by Tom today. Of course, if you've heard Tom before, you knew what you were expecting. If this was your first time hearing Tom, he's the impact pilot for a reason. So. Always be selling. This is kind of what it's all about. So these 3 keys to doubling sales in the next 6 months. I think these are, again, I got a note full of a paper full of notes that I get to walk away with. So recording of today's show. Well, and thank you again. So we appreciate it. And I'm just going to wrap up. I don't know if you have any other parting words before we do. All right. Recording of today's webinar will be available on the Chamber's YouTube channel, and you'll be sent a link so you can play back some of these things, and maybe use the workbook that hopefully you downloaded to go along as Tom's presenting. The Chamber Network, the Chamber Cafe will be open for general networking as well, which Tom will be available for discussion if you want to go to a table. Thank you everyone for joining us. We appreciate it. And another link in the Business Builder series we get to check off. And again, it was a great presentation. So thank you very much, Tom. Thank you everyone for joining us. We appreciate it. And of course, the Manifest team, thank you for coordinating and putting on a great event. Thank you, everybody.